No, please.
No. Okay.
We are live. Hello. Don't leave that. Hello. Who's this thing? Are we live? I think we're live.
I think we're live. Let's go. Let's do it.
I already get threats here. I already get threats from people saying if I don't go live soon, they're redelegating to my dad, which I don't know if is that Westmoncton? I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll
I don't think Washington is your dad, but we'll see.
Wir haben auch gerade beschlossen, dass wir die Show heute auf Deutsch machen übrigens, ne, Onur?
Genau, also wir haben heute ein paar Deutsche da am Start, deswegen Jack.
Ja, Jack, alles gut bei dir?
Alles gut.
Don't do that move.
Oh, that was way too close to that other thing. I was trying to salute.
That was way
Sorry,
too close.
guys. That was way too close. Did not mean that at all.
I think we have to restart this. Can we restart this? Anyways, so we have two new faces today, Marco and Onur. First time on my channel. Jack doesn't need an introduction, co-host here at Splitting Atom. I'm going to talk a lot about Cosmos Hub and Atom today and get also our guests' views on what they think where Atom and Cosmos Hub is headed. Jack, how's everything on your end? You had a crazy few weeks, I think, with this whole Juno thing, right?
You saw the beginning of it, and now it's 2 weeks in, and you see the bags under my eyes, and my hair is all over the place. So yes, that has been my last 2 weeks.
We were literally like, when we did the last Splitting Atoms, like during the stream, I think the proposal went up. And
yeah, it did.
I asked you guys, like, what do you think? And then Sunny was like, I don't even know what you talk about.
Yeah.
You shared some views.
Well, I think everyone in Cosmos now knows what we're talking about. So something that's not Prop 16 would be fantastic. I'll see you soon. Yeah, I mean, Marco and I are working on a number of exciting things together. Onur is all over the ecosystem, you know, helping push a number of different initiatives. So I think we got a lot of Cosmos Hub things to talk about today.
I like that, yeah, and I think you guys are also very bullish on Atom, so we get your views on that. I don't know, Jack, where should we start? There's a lot of things that you guys are working on, or what do you think where we should kick off the conversation?
Yeah, I'd love to hear, you know, Marco recently took over as the product manager on the Cosmos SDK, which is sort of one of the marquee products in Cosmos and a huge part of what makes the Cosmos Hub the Cosmos Hub. I'd love to hear from Marco how that's going. It's sort of what he's excited about over the next few months in Cosmos.
Yeah, definitely. I got started in the Cosmos SDK. Actually, Jack hired me into the Cosmos space, and I started out on the Cosmos SDK and then left, and then now I'm back. I went to work on Tendermint, and then came back, and I actually forgot how big of a code base and product it actually is. It's every day it's like I'm remembering more and more of like that random products that like live within the Cosmos SDK. What's coming out in the Cosmos SDK? I think in the next year, like we're going to entirely rewrite how people write applications and how they interact with applications. I feel like I say this every year though, but the last time I said it was pre-Stargate when we rewrote everything to protobuf, and now it's not as drastic of a change, but it's still a drastic enough change, but it's for the better for everyone. It's going to make writing the Cosmos SDK application a ton easier. And this is like what we call like app wiring and the framework. Secondly, like the ETL story in Cosmos, so like the indexing of data within Cosmos is pretty poor right now. If you want to like do an airdrop or find airdrop data, if you want to like build a whole infrastructure around data that's on chain, Joe Abbey's been doing an amazing job the past couple weeks with the whole Juno stuff to like really map out the transactions and accounts. And the idea is like, how do we make that whole world easier to do instead of like
Marco,
having to build the whole thing?
You want to know how he did that?
How?
Bash script that he was running across. He had the same copy of the bash script running in 8 different processes. And we had a 24 core machine with the Cosmos Hub 3 data on it. Interesting. That was very interesting. One thing that you mentioned that I always end up coming back to with a lot of folks in Cosmos is just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. You know, you're like, thought I was out of the Cosmos SDK, I thought I was down in Tendermint land, and then they pulled me back in. It's great to have you back. But yeah, so many people within the ecosystem like just can't get away from it. You know, it's like you start working on it and it like gets inside you, and you're like, oh well, I guess I'm here. Oh no, you're also one of those people too. You were now like it's just unavoidably Cosmos stuff all the time.
Yeah, definitely. When I started out, actually, Marco had a detour in our team back then, which was kind of doing a bunch of things, grants and ecosystem, also like coordination between other teams. So that's where Marco and I met. And you know, from that day on, I've been working on a bunch of things together.
So what is the core thing that you're working on right now? Because I see you left and right involved in like so many different things. But if somebody asks you like, what are you mainly working on? What would your answer be?
That's impossible to answer because there's no. I mean, I think this is great about Cosmos, and you definitely wear many hats and you have different responsibilities depending on your interest, but also your kind of profile. I would describe that I work on, you know, supporting the ecosystem, and the ecosystem is just described new teams, new Cosmos SDK teams, new projects that start off, support them with funding, support them with incorporation, support them with structuring all the way to mainnet, support them with bootstrapping their network or designing their test nets. So I'd say, you know, just supporting the ecosystem.
And you guys are also both working with the Interchain Foundation, right? So can you talk a little bit more? Because I think for a lot of people, that's always a bit confusing. Like, who are the teams working on Cosmos? How they're collaborating with each other, right? We had our Twitter Spaces last week, where we shed light on that a little bit. But for the CryptoCito YouTube community, can you share a little bit more about how the ICF is structured? And what is the core the core goal of the ICF at this point? Because I think there were some changes in the last few weeks, right?
Yeah, Marco's smirking because he knows what I'm thinking right now. But essentially, that is not an easy question to answer, and there's a lot of history here. If you follow Cosmos for a long time, you know that the place where most of the things started was All in Bits or Tendermint, and then there was the ICF as the Swiss foundation. So I think there's a lot of details which I don't want to bore you with, but essentially, you know, there's a Swiss foundation, but as any other foundation in the world, foundations cannot really build an operative business. Like, if you want to build an operative company and hire people and go into contracts with other entities, you need a different entity. So that's why we have Interchain. And Interchain is the company that we work with right now. And Interchain is structured in a couple different teams, mainly Cosmos SDK, Tendermint, IBC, Cosmos Hub, you know, grants and ecosystem funding, marketing. That's roughly it. And there's an operations team. So the core stack mostly happens within Interchain today, but I think we'll see a lot of changes on that front in the future.
Nice, that's really cool. And yeah, I think we can get into this in a second with what you guys are doing with the IBC DAO and relaying stuff. I think that's also turning into something.
I don't think we can talk about that. That's what Onur and Marco were smirking about. We're like, guys, CryptoCito, I have been
like
teasing this on this show for a really long time. But we're very close, very close. We just need to push this thing over the finish line.
So how close? Like a week or what? Next week?
Marco's about to give you a date here.
Give us a date.
A
hard date that you commit to.
Let's say Q2.
Q2. That's too broad. It's exact dates.
So
I think
we're really.
I think
Marco,
like, to kind of tease it is like it really follows suit in like some of these articles that even Vitalik's been posting, and it's been going around the Ethereum ecosystem about like how do we fund an ecosystem via public good funding, and like how does the ecosystem become self-sustainable, and that's really what we're trying to focus on with this new project. and how do we make the Cosmos ecosystem self-sustainable? How do projects and validators pay it forward to help sustain the future of Cosmos? And we're working with a lot of teams on this, and including the likes of like Cosmos Hub and other partners. And so we really want this to be like an inclusive effort that really brings everyone together.
And I think that, Cryptocito, one of the reasons why these timelines are so tough to give, and why I'm like always kind of continually teasing this is a huge effort. If you look at the number of chains on Map of Zones, there's a lot now. And each one of those chains has core teams. Each one of those teams has a foundation. Each one of those chains has a community. And what we're trying to do, as Marco mentioned, is create this inclusive organization where all of the pieces of the Cosmos can come together and fund this software that we all rely on. And, that is this huge sort of consensus building effort. And I think I've spent like 20 to 30% of my time for like 6 or 7 months now on, just every day, a few calls, talking to a few more people, getting a few more people behind it. And it is just this huge cumulative effort. And Marco and Onur have been also working on it almost a year on their piece of this. And we sort of joined forces at a certain point about 2-3 months ago. And now I've got a couple people on the Strange Love team. We're also working on this. So it's a huge effort to kind of bring all these people together. And that's why I don't want to like announce anything before we're ready.
But the main point is also to have an IBC relaying incentive structure, right? That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, that's one aspect of it. Really, I think some of our partners kind of challenged us. We had like a 2-3 year roadmap on like how to get to a certain place, and some of our partners were like, "How do we take that roadmap and make it reality like in 6 months instead of 3 years?" And then that's when we kind of like put on the afterburners and we're like, "Let's figure this out." I mean, only in crypto can you take something that's supposed to be like 3 years and turn it into like 6 months or less. So it's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, maybe the only thing I'd add.
But I have to put this in real quick. But Phil is asking if anybody wants to take this as a challenge, the shaving head challenge that we did with Sunny.
I'm happy to take it. I have no issues taking it.
No, we gotta get Jack on this. Jack, give us a date.
Oh.
He's thinking about it. He's actually thinking. Should we get Jack on this challenge? I think we should make a Twitter poll on that.
Yeah, you guys give me a date, something reasonable, and I'll. I don't want to promulgate a date yet.
No, you said Q2. So how about we take
June 1st? Let's say June 1st.
June 1st. It's on June 1st. There we go. June 1st, or else Jack goes bald. That's good. I like that. Worked out the last time. I mean, they shipped it, I think, a day before. So there we go. But yeah, sorry, Onur, you were saying something about the relaying, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna add. So you can see this as we're building something to fund the Cosmos public good infrastructure, and we want to focus on the shortcomings, right? Like there's a part of the stack that's been reasonably funded. There's a part that hasn't been funded as well. So we think that Relayers is one of the first pieces that needs better and more funding.
Yeah, we talked about this so much in the past months, also here in the show, about IBC incentivization, relayer incentivization. So excited to see that come forth. One question that we always ask for people that are here for the first time, and we had people from different projects on, different founders in the Cosmos ecosystem, is how do you view the Cosmos Hub specifically in this broader internet of blockchains that is now coming to life with 45 plus chains that are, as you said, on a map of zones. How do you view the role of the Cosmos Hub, the importance of it, the unique positioning, and also the whole point of Atom? Maybe, Onur, you can start to share your views on that.
Yeah, so my thinking is divided into two parts. One is kind of the features and mechanisms and everything we plan out. We can talk about like the interchain services that are planned, which just, I think, from a mechanism perspective will drive usage and hopefully some value. But the other second area that I find much more interesting is basically, what happens organic in the ecosystem. And one thing that we've seen is Atom holders, stakers, and governance participators, just like this has been used as a distribution mechanism for new projects in the ecosystem. And that's nothing that was planned. That was no roadmap. There was no feature for that. That just happened organically. So this is one of the most fascinating thing, I think, when it comes to value accrual and use cases for Atom, just being kind of, not just the first Cosmos SDK chain, but also, one of the more secure, and also one that is used for distribution today. If that will look the same in a year from now, I have no idea. But I think it's really interesting to see staking and governance participation as kind of factors that factor into distributions of completely new ecosystems.
Awesome. And Marco, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot of fun stuff coming out in the Cosmos Hub, from interchain security to like service providing to the interchain. There's a lot of thinking going on, and really the Cosmos Hub is like poised to really define like a new era of like interchain. It did it once before with IBC, and it has the potential to really innovate and push the thinking forward of like how to make the interchain better, how to make it more accessible, and how to make it just like more friendly for users. Right now, it's very developer oriented, and it's like Kepler's done an amazing job like abstracting that. Osmosis and teams have done amazing teams at abstracting that. But it's like, what else can we do to make it easier to work with these things? There has been like known kind of like pain points of certain parts of the stack that the hub team's already thinking of like how to solve and how to make it easier for users, and really kind of becoming that interchain service provider, I think, is a huge thing that's going to happen with the Cosmos Hub. I mean, that's the direction I'm more oriented in.
And do you think that the interchain security is kind of like the main part of that interchain services that the Cosmos Hub could provide, or what are some of the other use cases where the Cosmos Hub could be this interchain service provider without having to enforce these dependencies on the hub? Because I think that's the whole point of it, right? It's not to enforce that people have to go through the hub, to not centralize the whole system, but to rather say, hey, this is what the hub provides. It's unique in the Cosmos ecosystem, but it also drives a value, and that's how Atom derives its value from. Could you share maybe some of the things that are coming also besides interchain security, or do you think that's the biggest one and the main one?
So I think that's the biggest and main one, and I think the Cosmos Hub is going to really start pushing the story of to like launch a chain right now for, let's say, the people on this call. Like, it's easy to get a team together, launch a chain. Like, it's very feasible, but launching a chain is like very, very hard for like newcomers to the ecosystem. Owner, Jack, and yourself have been like helping teams and like helping them get on the marketing side, the community side, the validator side, the tech side. And there's a lot of like knowledge kind of being housed within a few people. And so how do we make that easier? Well, first of all, like getting them to launch within a VM environment so they can get their product out and get product market fit. And then enabling them to be able to like spin out into their own chain, either interchain security or like a roll up with Celestia or something along these lines. The thing I'm most excited for coming out, I'd say in the next year, is how the Cosmos Hub will also interact with Celestia itself. I've kind of been like pushing the story of the Cosmos Hub providing the security layer and Celestia providing the data availability layer for these rollups or for these like interchain secured zones. And so this is like my biggest hype for like the Cosmos Hub and for Celestia, kind of like that synergy between both ecosystems. But Celestia is really built out of providing the data availability, but not necessarily providing that security. It can, but it's going to be a lot more beneficial for things like the Cosmos Hub to take advantage of that data availability and just be like, we will secure your chain for you.
And I think we talked about this a lot on previous shows, how Atom could still grow in value with a growing IBC economy. What do you think could be could be the game plan for that? I mean, we talked about kind of like Atom as a holding company, right? Is that something that you guys, and I think Billy is more probably the guy to ask this, but I don't know if you have insights on that, how Atom could also grow with the growing IBC economy, because I think a lot of people just want to bet on the whole ecosystem, right? They don't maybe have the time or the energy, the resources to go really deep and figure out which is the next big thing. They just want to, like, you know, get exposure through to the whole ecosystem. So what are some of the ways and this could go?
Yeah, so I mean, if we look at the Atom, it's been around for 3 years now. It's one of the few tokens in the Cosmos ecosystem that's widely adopted across exchanges and custodial providers. On top of that, like the ICF, Interchain, the Cosmos Hub team is working on expanding that set of third-party integrations. A lot so on the custody side. And so an interesting thing here is, like, all these chains coming on, like, have holders with big bags, and a lot of them don't want to use their own custodial system. Well, the best way to, like, get the middle ground is to be able to use the Atoms, the work the Atom team and ICF and, like, all those people are really putting in to get, like, custody support or, like, exchange support to their token and to their users. And so this is kind of like another service provider effort that, like, I'm like super passionate about, just because, like, custody in the Cosmos ecosystem, because it's so easy to spin up a chain, has really been forgotten. And, like, really good OPSEC has really been forgotten throughout the Cosmos ecosystem, because everyone's spinning up new chains, and if you're in custody, you're not getting airdrops, and so everyone's taking money out of the custody solutions. So how do we really make the users' funds secure? And it's like the Atom and the Cosmos Hub, in my opinion, are going to be, like, essential to that, and most likely the center for that. And so that's, like, that and, like, alongside Interchain security, like, the two biggest things why I'm most bullish Atom.
Jack, owner, you're so silent. What's up?
You know, I think that what Marco says, and, like, one of the themes that kind of comes up repeatedly on this call is, like, you ask that question, I think, every week, Cryptos, you know, and in the new guests we have, and, you know, the old guests like me and Zaki, I think everyone's tired of hearing me talk about chain naming service and sort of, like, making the hub the center of IBC. But all of these incredibly talented people all come together to make the Cosmos Hub. And we each have our own ideas, as well as our own resources and development teams at this point, to go make those ideas a reality. And we're all pushing that code upstream into the Cosmos Hub. And, like, that, like, what Marco is saying is one reason why Atom can and will be just, like, incredibly valuable. What Billy is saying is another reason. What I'm saying, what Zaki's saying with the liquid staking work and Atom and some of the other stuff he's working on, like, all of these things are coming together. And it might seem like this kind of slightly disorganized way of working, but when you have people contributing to the same code base and the same community from all over the world, this is just kind of how it works. It works slowly. Everyone's kind of contributing and pushing things, but, you know, we're pushing in a number of different directions all at the same time. And, like, some of those are going to bear fruit. And that's why Atom is still the best bet on the broader Cosmos ecosystem out there.
I like that, yeah. I think that's also part of the reason why we have this show, is to get everybody on here, hear their views, hear their thoughts, you know, because I think before we did splitting atoms, actually, like, people were very confused, you know, like, who is actually, like, building, improving, and working on the Cosmos Hub and Atom, right? And now people are very familiar with Zaki's views and like I said, Billy's views as well. We also talk a lot now. And we also have this weekly show on Twitter where we share updates also with Billy. So I think the community really, really appreciates that. And you see that there's like 130 people right now just listening to this because they want to hear the latest and hottest. But yeah, so I think that's very valuable for the community. They really appreciate that. But yeah, what are some of the other things that that we can talk about? I mean, like, just hearing your general thoughts about Atom, I think that's what people always appreciate. But is there anything else that's cooking on your side that you want to share?
I mean, one thing that I think hasn't been mentioned today was not just like interchain security to secure other chains, but also security of the hub to just secure assets in general. For example, as we're going to see more non-custodial solutions with something like the groups module that's planned, I think the hub will become one of the major places to secure funds. And then on top of that, we'll have interchain accounts that will enable a whole nother set of use cases that I think we need another time to discuss all that. But essentially, when you secure some some size of funds, you also need to look at how secure is the network itself. Otherwise, there's an interesting incentive to just break the network and steal the funds. And it's in that sense, I think, Atom so Cosmos Hub is one of the most secure networks out there, and especially in the Cosmos ecosystem, I think that will also become more and more interesting. So whether that's DAO treasuries or funds that manage their assets in a non-custodial fashion, I think this is something I also look forward to in the future.
So one cool new example of an interchain security zone is that's sort of related to this owner is Quicksilver and the liquid staking zone, which is coming up. This is a way to kind of scale the Cosmos Hub with interchain security and add new functionality without putting it directly on the main chain. And, between the work that Zaki's done on liquid staking, as well as, the Lido team launched liquid staking for ETH2, one of the members of that team, Joe Bowman, is working on the liquid staking zone. They've pushed forward a bunch of features, stuff like interchain queries, so the ability to query one chain from another chain to help do these kinds of management of staking assets on the hub. Really excited for that one, and excited to see that one roll out.
Yeah, I think that's also, Zaki said this a lot, because I get a lot of messages from people that say, hey, how about, the inflation of Atom? It really sucks. The price can never go up because the inflation is so high. But once you have liquid staking and you have liquidity pools and you can do cool DeFi stuff with it, I think this conversation is at least either over or at least like way, way, way less relevant, because it's just multiple ways to earn yield. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. But there was supposed to be in the Theta upgrade, right, which is coming now on the 12th. I think it was pushed back a little bit, right? The liquid staking module.
Yeah, it sounds like Billy just put up a message that it sounds like that upgrade proposal should be coming in the next few days, but I don't think it will include the liquid staking. There's a couple of minor issues we're still ironing out there.
Yeah, so stay tuned on that one. But we also have a lot of different versions right now live already that you can play around with if you can't wait to play around with your staked atoms. We can talk, take some questions in between, because there's like a lot of
there's some good ones in there.
You can also pull it up if you want.
What about this Adam Burke one, validator decentralization question? Is it possible to create rotating validator sets in Tendermint, increases decentralization, but also keeps chain fast with 100 to 300 validator sets? Marco and Anur, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on this, but Adam, I don't think that the issue with the validator decentralization is having a lot more of them. ETH2 has a lot of validators. They've got how many? Like tens of thousands, I think is kind of the number.
I think they have like 100-something thousand, yeah.
Each one of those validators is actually just only a certain amount of stake. And what's ended up happening is that individual organizations such as Lido end up controlling massive blocks of that validator set. So, just spamming a whole ton more validators doesn't really do anything to increase the decentralization. The decentralization really comes, and I think Juno is a great example of this, it comes from the decentralization of stake. Governance will always be driven by this stake weighting, and the security of the network is only as good as the security of the decentralized stake that sort of drives it. This is one of the reasons the Cosmos Hub has such great security, is because the stake is fairly decentralized, and the set of actors who came together to make the Cosmos Hub sort of, it's this unique moment in like 2017 crypto before that huge run up people who are really into the community, and like that's why the Cosmos Hub is unique. One of the many reasons, but the real issue to solve, Adam, is stake decentralization and not more validators, rotating validator sets. That all kind of like polishes around the edges of the core problem. Marco, or do you guys have thoughts on that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You go first. Yeah,
I have a ton of thoughts on that. So I actually started out as a miner. My journey into Web3 started as a miner. And while like Bitcoiners will claim that they're the most decentralized and everything, I mean, guess what? There's like, what, 7, 8 pools? I didn't run my own node to propose the candidate blocks. I was just using pools that I submitted my shares to. So what I want to say is, even if on paper it looks decentralized, if you look behind the scenes, what Jack said, if there's a centralization layer in this case in the pools, it doesn't mean anything. The pools are run by like 10 people or something. So in that sense, I think Vitalik had a post, The Meaning of Decentralization, where he was talking about technical decentralization, political decentralization, and I think also geographical decentralization. And to Jack's point, like at the end of the day, what I care is about the delegators and the stake behind, like how decentralized is that. Last point to close it up, decentralization is important, but I don't want it to become like, it's a means to an end, in my opinion. And the end is permissionless access to everything. So we should make sure we can give everyone permissionless access. But I think a threshold, if you look at the stack, what about cables? What about ISPs? What about like other things that aren't decentralized? It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, Onur, I really agree with this. I think Ethereum has kind of fallen into this trap of chasing decentralization at all costs. And it's because they have this thesis where it's like, there's only one chain. There's going to be one chain that's going to rule them all. And we need to make sure this is as decentralized as possible in whatever way they're sort of currently defining that. And if you look through the history of the project, they've kind of shifted the goalposts on that repeatedly. But it's driving them towards these very specific architectures, and it's leading them to miss sort of things that are like less potentially decentralized, but much more practical and much more closely mirror real world human systems out there. Real world human systems look a lot like Cosmos chains. There's individual companies with their own cap tables and their own power structures that are then sort of engaging with each other on a peer-to-peer basis. And like, that's the world that Cosmos creates. Like, we built that programmatically. And I think that that's part of the power of IBC, is that it takes us out of this world where we say we have to be decentralization maximalists. It puts us into this world where the system encourages this decentralization, encourages people to exit and start their own token distributions, encourages people to experiment with new token distributions, the people who really care about those things, and then the people who just want to get business done and just want to do X thing and do it really effectively, they can have this very centralized chain that ends up engaging with all of these decentralized communities. And we get more of this spectrum of power that much more accurately models what we have in the real world. And like, I think that is clearly, I think that that's the way that it's going to end up working out. And I think the market's showing us that right now.
Yeah, so definitely agree with these 2 points. I've been talking to a few people about like trying to commission some sort of study of across the Cosmos ecosystem of white label validators, because it'd be interesting. Like we keep talking about like how, let's say like Kraken has a majority of the ETH2 share, or like Lido does. But it'd be interesting to see in the Cosmos ecosystem, like how many top validators, or how many validators in general, like on the Cosmos Hub, on Osmosis, on Juno, are actually run by like the same company, but like branded as a different company. And I think this has come up more and more. Like Jacob from Notional is like, I think if you run a white label, you should say like name of your company by this white label validator, because then it shows to the community like, hey, like these people are here because they're like on the marketing aspect. And then the other part, like decentralization means a lot, and it's kind of like been always in the ethos and the ethos of Cosmos. And really, this is why like application specific blockchains have always been at the core vision. But like diving more and more and looking more into these blockchains and the revenue models for validators, it's become more and more apparent that there's a huge discrepancy between the top validator and the lowest validator. The lowest validator is like barely paying their server costs for their like effort being put in. And some of these validators on the lower echelon are actually putting in a lot more effort than the validators who may have just been around the longest, been around in the Cosmos ecosystem the longest. So it's kind of like, how can we bring that discrepancy between the highest validator in revenue and the lowest validator in revenue, and kind of shrink that margin in order for this validator on the lowest side to be able to like cover their server costs at bare minimum.
Actually, I have a friend right now. He's writing his master thesis about staking and proof of stake networks, and he's actually analyzing all Cosmos networks and their validators to see how much voting power do they have across all chains they're validating on. I think I don't know if he intends to publish that, but I think it would be interesting to see. But what I do see now, also since I started a validator, that especially in the last 3-4 months, I think a lot of like content creators, people that have a community, small software companies, they're like getting into this because they're now understanding like this is something that I can also take part in the crypto space, right? Without just having to buy a token and speculate on the price, you can also become an active part of the infrastructure. So I think I'm seeing, I don't know exact numbers, but like I'm seeing more and more people trying to spin up nodes, learn about it, which I think is a process. And I think actually, Marco, you have great, I think it was you, like great videos on YouTube to explain how it works and how you spin up nodes, at least some content on YouTube there.
I think it's like, I love that aspect that like more people are getting involved. I think the technology or the people's willingness to accept the technology and that it's growing and becoming faster is a lot slower. Because like as more people come on, like I was actually just doing the math the other day and like talking to Dave from Osmosis earlier, like increasing the validator set actually doesn't do that much to a network because it's like they're most likely have the lowest stake, and so it's more so like for their participation. But it kind of gets more out there. But the barrier to entry right now is kind of very high on Osmosis. It's extremely high on the Cosmos Hub, and so it's like, while more and more people are coming out and these like these companies and these individuals are coming out, the validator sets aren't growing to accommodate these new people coming out, and it's becoming more and more competitive. Personally, I think like Tendermint can easily handle 200-300 validators without much slowdown. But like many networks have kind of follow the Cosmos Hub, and the Cosmos Hub is at 150. And once the Cosmos Hub hits 200, then it's going to be like, oh, now it's safer to launch at 200. So it's like either we need to accelerate the Cosmos Hub to like increase their validator set, or we need to make people more comfortable with larger validator sets.
I think, Marco, so like Omniflix did a 700 node testnet, which I think had very long block times and fell over. But I think that there's a number of sort of performance fixes. I think it's going to take some chain launching with like a 500 to 700 validator size validator set in order to break that norm. I don't think we're going to be able to raise it incrementally. It's really funny. I remember in the original Cosmos Hub white paper, they had like this chart, and it was like, after we launch, we're going to increase the validator set by this much with the plan to get it to 300. Where are we on that? I feel like it's time for another increase. Speaking of that,
I don't remember the original numbers, but I think someone in the community called out the Cosmos Hub for not following it like last year, and then they increased it to like 150. But I definitely think we are like, I think at 3 years we were slated to be a bit over like 250 or something like that. So we're definitely behind in that realm.
Interesting. I see Danko is here in the chat. He's a great example. I was actually thinking of him when I said that more people are spinning up nodes. He's doing a lot of content in Terra and is a big Terra guy, but he's also now running nodes on multiple chains beyond just Terra. I think also on Osmosis he launched one. I think we'll see more of that. Like, maybe 250 next year or 250.
Powerful Danko. Daku also mentions Marco sounds like somebody from the Terra ecosystem.
Yeah.
I think Marco does do quite a bit of Terra work. He's definitely been the most active Cosmos core team member working with the Terra folks, which is fantastic. You know, I think we talked about earlier about this sort of like cat herding stuff that we do. And, you know, it's really important that people maintain personal relationships with some of these chains. And like Marco has been a huge personal bridge between the Cosmos ecosystem and the Terra ecosystem. Got to give him props for that. I pulled up the white paper, you guys, and at year 0, we're supposed to be at 100. Year 1, we're supposed to be at 113. Year 2, we're supposed to be 127. Year 3, we're supposed to be 144. So if we're at 150, we're looking good.
Okay, yeah, we're looking good.
Yeah. Year 4, though, we need to get up to 163. This is a very conservative chart here. Anyway, I think we get to 300 before year 10. That's my guess.
Let's do it. We with the improvements coming to like Tendermint and ABCI++, and like lit P2P, like we can definitely increase it.
Don't forget, we're working on the mempool design, porting over the mempool design from Libra too. That work is actually moving forward nicely right now, which is cool.
So I have a question in that regard. So, you know,
yeah.
not being involved in engineering at Cosmos, how's the process of increasing the set? Like, who decides that? Does that need to go through governance, or like is that the core team? Okay, governance. And what's the process of, you know, putting up a governance proposal? Who can do that? What's required?
Anyone. So, yeah, sorry, Anar.
No, just like maybe walk us through the process of how that will work.
Yeah, for sure. So right now it's like CLI only. So if you're not a CLI hacker, like it is a little bit exclusive in that way. Strangelove has been working on a governance UI to allow people to submit governance proposals. A lot of the stuff Marco mentioned around all these interfaces that we're working on for the Cosmos SDK and how that's changing, that's kind of affected timelines on that project. But basically, there's a transaction. So it's something like you sign with Kepler to vote for a governance proposal, and you say, this is the type of governance proposal I want. There's a number of different types of them. For this particular one, that would be a parameter change proposal. So the number of validators that the staking module accepts is a parameter that is controlled by governance. And if you go on the Cosmos Hub and query it right now, it says 150. So you would put up a parameter change proposal and you say, I want to change this staking parameter that sets the number of validators, and I want to change that to 200. And then you would go ahead and submit that proposal. There's the CLI command to do it. And once you submit that transaction, that governance proposal goes into what's called deposit period. And this is to prevent people from essentially spamming the governance process with a bunch of junk. We have seen junk governance proposals in the past that are extremely poorly written, potentially crazy, things that nobody wants to vote on. And in order to force a vote on things, you need to put down funds. You need to have skin in the game. I think on the Cosmos Hub right now, that's like 512 atoms. Maybe it's less now. Less? Do you know what it is? Is it 128? 64. Okay, we lowered it. So 64 atoms, so a couple $1,000. And that money is at risk in the case where a governance proposal gets vetoed or it doesn't reach quorum. I believe are the two cases where it's at risk. Marco, did you have thoughts on that too?
I think it's also when it doesn't meet the deposit.
It doesn't meet the deposit too. You're right. So this deposit period is generally about the same length as the voting period, and if you don't get the deposit beforehand, all those deposited funds are get lost. But once the deposit gets met, once 64 atoms have been deposited, and this is just another transaction, there's no UI for this. This is probably the first piece of governance UI we would build, because that deposit is a really easy transaction to build. Once that deposit gets hit, then it goes into governance period. And I think we all saw, everyone was watching Minscan with Prop 16 as the votes rolled in. So everyone's pretty familiar with that voting period and sort of how that works. But yeah, that's kind of the life cycle of the Cosmos governance process. And I think I mentioned the other day, we're all playing the game that Sunny set out for us back in 2018, 2019 in the Berkeley offices, because he wrote that governance module and got it wired up deeply into all of these different pieces of Cosmos. And a lot of that governance design is, you know, thanks to Sunny and the work that he put in.
Last question in that regard. So if you put up that proposal, let's say you change it from 150 to 160, and with it reaches quorum and it reaches kind of a yes result, would that change happen automatically, or is there another node upgrade that needs to happen?
Yeah, this is like one of the coolest things about Cosmos. That change happens immediately. The number of active validators, I think it takes a block to take effect. So like governance proposal passes on a block, the parameter gets changed in that block, the staking module sees that in the next block, expands the number of validators that it accepts, and like, bam, it all works. It is a pretty slick system. And, you know, these sort of like, I think as we're seeing governance gated CosmWasm smart contracts that are not only coming to the hub, but are active on Osmosis right now, the ability of governance to deploy things immediately is drastically increasing, and to do these things without chain upgrades is like huge, huge, huge value add, and something that I think is really neat.
Do you think there should be in the future like an UI for people to, you know, for like literally the community that is not, you know,
yes, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Strangelove is working on it. Like nice. We have a couple other projects that have kind of taken precedence, but we put in some work on this, and we'd really like to ship it as a utility for the community. The ability to submit proposals and then deposit on them are the two missing pieces of functionality for the average user right now.
Let's look into some of the comments. Coney Daddy also has a note. How could I forget that? Coney Daddy is running notes. So I don't know which chains actually. I think Comdex. I remember you running on Comdex, maybe some other chains. But if the Atom set gets expanded, Coney, you must be there. You should be there, the first one in the line. Tumblr also has a question.
Coney, let's do it. Let's increase. Let's decrease the voting period from 2 weeks to 5 days on the hub, and let's increase the validator set to 160.
And boom, you're in.
From 2 weeks to you want to go 5-day voting period on the hub, Marco?
Yeah, it's time to let's speed things up.
You know, it would be nice. I think we really should. That 2-week voting period is rough. 5 days on Juno, like, you know, for things that are really important, it is possible to reach people in 5 days. And like, we saw 98% of stake vote in that. I'm supportive of shorting that voting period.
Is the first vote of decreasing it to 5 days going to take 2 weeks though?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think especially when Interchain security comes out, because from my understanding, to propose potential consumer chains, it also has to go through governance, right? Like there will be an on-chain proposal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, this is like one of those things, like governance, like is so useful and so powerful, and also takes responsibility away from individuals and puts it onto the stake distribution. There's so many uses for it. Increasing the throughput of governance while not increasing the load on individual validators and users is really, really important. And, you know, delegated governance voting, i.e., let's say you really like Jack and you want to delegate to Jack your governance vote. And I'll say, we're going to vote on every governance proposal. Our views are public and open. We post them all the time. You should delegate your vote to us. These types of like delegated voting systems are one thing that I think we can use to increase governance throughput. And, you know, this has long been theorized in Cosmos chains. And I think Sunny calls this system the governator, which is funny, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, like these types of things need to be developed. Just one thing real quick that I see a couple of questions in the chat about. I mentioned some mempool work from the Libra team. Is that a collab with Open Libra from the Libra team? No, this is actually the Libra team that was at Facebook. They left. They created a company called Meiston Labs. They're working with us at Sommelier to do that. Somebody asked, is that mempool work being developed in the open? It is actually closed source right now. Until we get a little bit further on the implementation, we're closed sourcing it so that there's not too much noise. The team that's doing that implementation is really experienced, and this is how they want to work. So it's going to be closed source until it's done, and then it's going to be open source.
Yeah, thanks for for clearing that. Yeah, there was a question I had just up from Tumblr. Well, first of all, thanks. I appreciate that you want to support us. But the second part of the question, will Cosmos ever have real-world applications?
Cosmos has the real-world applications. Go rid some compute on Akash. There's a huge upgrade coming to Akash to make it much easier and much better to rent compute from them. Persistent storage, a number of other really exciting things. Go try that. That's a real-life Google Cloud AWS competitor that's live right now. Sentinel, you can go buy VPN usage from Sentinel today. Go do it. Osmosis is a real-world decentralized exchange. Umi is a real-world lending platform. I don't know if they're live yet. Kava, another real-world lending platform. There's a number of real-world applications that are here on Cosmos today. And honestly, Cosmos is the easiest platform to build real-world applications on, because these real-world applications often require deeper integrations than just building a smart contract. They require some coordination with validators and some control over the chain itself and the consensus. And that's why we see real-world applications like Akash and Sentinel repeatedly being built on Cosmos. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, very, very good answer. I think you guys are all working on so many projects and supporting each other as well. That's what I love about Cosmos. When I first heard about it and learned about it, is this like collaborative effort between also the teams, and everyone's kind of like learning from each other, sharing and growing together. That's the whole point of Cosmos, right? Is to have this application-specific Internet of Blockchains. We also have Chihuahua, a real-world meme coin. How could you forget about that?
Wawa is cool. I know Marco and Owner are big Wawa bulls. I'm personally waiting for some pup. A little bit of Pupmos. Very excited about my Pupmos. That's the meme coin that I'm holding out hope for.
I think memes are a part of culture. Like, for whatever reason, art is valuable, or whatever definition people have of culture, starting from our languages that we use to the things that we aesthetically appreciate. I think memes are a part of internet culture, and that's why I think memes have a lot of value. So, especially for young people, I think it's easier to understand. Everyone who was a gamer, for example, there's in-game things that have much more meaning and value to you than anything in the real world, right? So on top of what Jack said, I just wanted to add to the real-world application thing that I think my first step when I thought about real-world application was always to literally take something from the real world and think about how that would work with blockchain. Something like, I have this process in the real world today. How would this look on blockchain? But I came to the conclusion that this is the same mistake that happened in web, when you try to bring a library onto a web. Although the native primitives of the web are much richer, so we build much more sophisticated things such as search or other things and feeds and whatnot. So I think Web3 or crypto, however you call it, I think rather than thinking about how do we bring things that exist today, I'm much more excited about what are the primitives enabling, and what will we see in the future that couldn't exist before.
Yeah. Owner, that's extremely well said. Very well said. Sort of building on that, Choco Sabe says, I can say from trying Ethereum and Solana and Cosmos is the easiest to build on. Love that. Thank you. We built this for people like you, Choco Sabe, to come try it out. And we find that when people do the head-to-head, they always pick Cosmos. Just Crypto also says Cosmos is literally one of the smoothest chains to transact on. Love that about it. I have trouble making Ethereum transactions these days because I don't like waiting.
I'm barely doing any at this point anymore. It's just once you're experiencing Osmosis and Stargaze and all these Cosmos chains and Atom, there's no way back. There's no way out of this. And even IBC transactions are smooth. Just to add here, Danko is saying Terra is a real-world stablecoin creator, and people actually do forget that it's actually Cosmos. So Terra is also part of the family, right? And
Terra rockin'. Terra a huge part of Cosmos. Well, guys, you guys can stick on for a little while. I have to go to Strange Love stand up. I got to go check in with my team. But Cryptocito, thank you again. We'll do this again in 2 weeks. If there are any cosmonauts out there who want to come on and talk Cosmos Hub, let's go. Marco and Honora, thank you guys for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
I got to head out as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
all right. Catch you guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think we can actually wrap it up also. It was a good session. Onur, you're the last man standing. You have any final thoughts, comments, things that people should check out, alpha leaks to share?
I think I already shared it in the Twitter space, but I think coming back to the topic of distribution mechanisms of new chains, I think we will see the distribution to grow beyond just this one-off airdrop based on staking. I think distribution will become a little bit more sophisticated to make it less gameable, but also make it more fair and take into account more parameters. One of the things I think that we will see in the future is governance. So, not just for farming airdrops, but I think in general, like participate in governance, be active in the networks. I really appreciate to see that. And to be honest, I'm just fascinated and really appreciate the community thriving these days. Like I would have never imagined that 2 years ago when I was just starting out in the Cosmos ecosystem, transitioning from Ethereum. And now like seeing the community alive and growing so fast and so engaged is really humbling and really, just great to see. So super thankful for that.
Yeah, it is. I think we're at a point now where things are like, we actually have to even coordinate the Twitter spaces to not overlap because there's so much going on from the community itself. Just people starting to talk about, farming strategies or governance thoughts. And yeah, it's amazing to see. It was pretty lonely in the beginning. I think Liam and I were the first and only ones on YouTube to make like regular content, but now you see it's exploding. So that's cool. But wait, so the thing that you just said about participating in governance, it sounds like there's anything that like, is there any?
I'm talking to a lot of teams as I work on helping teams in the ecosystem. To be honest, like mainly I help with navigating the regulatory landscape and helping with incorporation and that type of things. But usually, sometimes part of this is also how teams are planning to distribute the network. And I think in that conversation, I'm just hearing from multiple teams independent from each other that this pure drop to stakers was a great start, but I think people are thinking about the evolution of that, right? So and the evolution of that might be okay, like for example for the gravity, right? For gravity or the graph token, we've already seen governance participation as the main determining factor of the distribution. And I think that's just an indicator, and we will see more of that in the future.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I keep saying constantly, guys, participate in governance, not just because you have an economic stake in a network, which also means you kind of like have a responsibility to at least share your views on it and get active in the discussions maybe, or at least be aware of them. But also to maximize eligibility for airdrops, right? It's as simple as that. And sure, now with this airdrop craziness that we had in Cosmos, I think there's 10 airdrops I'm not even aware of that I haven't even claimed that I might be able to claim, but it's just so much going on. Projects will also think about refining their target audience, right? Because for them, it's a user acquisition, right? They don't want to just give us free money to make us rich. It's a user acquisition strategy in the first place, and kind of liquidity distribution and all these kind of things. So keep those things in mind and be active in governance, vote on proposals. And I think that's how you at least maximize the potential eligibility for stuff that's coming up. But yeah, I really appreciate your time, Onur. And yeah, I don't know, we'll see you, I think, latest at Cosmoverse here in Colombia, hopefully.
Super excited for that.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time, and stay safe and be good. Take care. Bye.